Good afternoon, everybody. All right, I am so happy to be here today and in person for this Martin Luther King Day prayer luncheon that we're going to have today. So to start off, I would like to have anybody that was presenting in the teaching and everybody that's been part of the MLK committee, if you could stand for me real quick. Thank you. Without their hard work, none of this would be possible today. And I'm so happy that they took this journey with us today just to make this all possible, just to make today be very special and a great day for us to have and celebrating Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday and learning about what we can do to better ourselves in the future. So today we're going to have our Voices of Praise is going to start our performance today, and Voices of Praise is led by Senior Angel Tovar. Angel, like most seniors that we have on campus that you're going to hear from today, we're going to miss them dearly because they are really truly part of what makes this campus great. They are part of, and you'll see with their wonderful performance today of some of the work that they put in. Voices of Praise earlier this year, they toured in Houston. They not only served with their voices to the community, they also had the opportunity to go to the Houston Food Bank and serve there, and they took in a lot of cultural opportunities while we're there. So, without further ado, put your hands together for Voices of Praise.
Is honored to be celebrating the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King with you all today. When thinking about his life and legacy, I think about how he relied on his faith through the movement. And so this next song that I'm going to sing really highlights that. It's called If It Had Not Been for the Lord. And I want you all to sing with us. And when you learn the song, it's a real easy song. I want y'all to sing it with us at our gospel extravaganza, February 11th at Grace United Methodist Church at 3 p.m. Is that all right? All right. We'll have our interim president, Dr. Donna Carroll, come up and give us a nice little welcome.
You moved it down, not quite far enough for this short round. Why don't we start with one more round of applause for that one? And good afternoon, everyone, and Happy New Year. So thank you for joining us for North Central's 2023 Martin Luther King Jr. Prayer Luncheon, and for recognizing the need to pause, to assess, and to recommit to our campus ideals of justice and reconciliation, so profoundly expressed by MLK Jr. He says, "We are caught in an inescapable mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny." Let me start with a special thank you to Nicor Gas for its continuing support of this event and for all the support it gives to our college's Black History Month programs. We're also delighted to have with us today Congressman Foster, President Emeritus, Dr. Hal Weldy, and two of our previous luncheon speakers, Doctors Williams and White and Williams. We welcome you. And since this is an event about inclusion, we welcome all of you equally for the significant value you bring to the program. So as president, I have a personal MLK Jr. Day ritual, which I followed most of my tenure as a president, so almost 30 years. Each January, I reread King's letter from the Birmingham jail. I choose a passage that speaks to me in the present moment and I try to hold it as inspiration throughout the year. As some of you know, and I was mentioning it this morning, I've been intrigued by North Central's founding value of moral courage. And I often wonder how that value is demonstrated in our current situation. MLK's deconstruction of the concepts of order and justice, I think, really give us some direction. King asks, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice? As an increasingly diverse campus community, racially, economically, politically, even academically, we at North Central need to continue to wrestle with that question. Do we have the courage to dig deep beyond our needs for order, for comfort, for the familiar, to truly be just and inclusive? And how should that campus look and feel? Tomorrow is a National Day of Racial Healing. It's no coincidence that this day follows the celebration of MLK Jr.'s day. It will be 60 years ago in August that King wrote his letter, alone for days in the dull monotony of a narrow jail cell, as he described it. These words endure for us both as inspiration and as a caution and an illustration of the hard work yet to come. As a college committed to the tenets of moral courage, North Central must engage in the pursuit of justice, racial healing, and transformation. I look forward to hearing my colleague Tracie Morris's comments yet to come, and I look forward to working with all of you in the months ahead to pursue that ideal. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Carroll, for those wonderful words. My name is Serene Labadi. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Office of Multicultural Affairs Student Coordinator this year, and also a member of our Muslim student population on campus. North Central College is affiliated with the United Methodist Church, a Protestant Christian denomination that affirms high standards of intellectual rigor, personal growth, dignity, and equality for all people. And as an NCC community member and a member of another faith on campus, I just want to emphasize that we also affirm our commitment to welcome and celebrate people of all different faiths and belief structures to North Central College and to this community. And while the words and mission of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. were rooted in Christianity, his vision was one that extends into a multitude of faiths. For example, for me in Islam, our greeting to one another in the start to any interaction or any communication with other people, you start your interactions with Assalamu alaikum, which in Arabic means peace be upon you. And I think that that's just kind of a beautiful thing that across so many different belief structures, that value of peace, justice, and equity is one that is shared. And so we just want to say that everybody that's committed to that path of justice and that path of peace is welcome to walk with us and join hands with us today and every day. And now I'm going to share a blessing that was shared with me to share with you all. So we sincerely hope that the words from today's lunch blessing will resonate with you, regardless of your faith. So if you could please take this time to center yourself in a way that makes sense to you, such as by closing your eyes or bowing your head. As we come together on Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, let us pause a moment to appreciate the opportunity for good company and to thank all those, past and present, whose efforts have made this event possible. May we reap the fruits of our society, our country, and our civilization, and take joy in the bounties of nature today. Let us be together, let us eat together, let us be vital together, let us be radiating truth, radiating the light of life. Let us also wish that someday all people on earth make qualitative changes in our souls, as well as quantitative changes in our lives to build and sustain a beloved community. May we all be blessed today and in the future. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I am Morgan Harmon, Black Student Association co-president. Our theme for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Week and Black History Month events is Freedom to Dream, the radical imagination of a new generation. In Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s last book, Where Do We Go From Here, Chaos or Community, King said, "Power at its best is love, correcting everything that stands against love." This new generation has been using its power to implement the demands of justice with technology and social media platforms. They are organizing movements and spreading awareness of social justice issues as they use their power to correct everything that stands against love and address the barriers of oppression. There remains a challenge of what a world filled with justice at its best that Dr. King mentioned would look like. Robin D.G. Kelly writes, "Without new visions, we don't know what to build, only what to knock down. We not only end up confused, rudderless, and cynical, but we forget that making a revolution is not a series of clever maneuvers and tactics, but a process that can and must transform us. To avoid chaos and build a community that is just and filled with a love requires the radical imagination of this new generation." Our scripture reading today is Psalm 23, one of the best known and often memorized passages in the Bible. This beloved text is part of many people's devotion, as well as important church rituals, including most funeral rites. May its words of solace and hope speak to us again today. I'll be reading the New Revised Standard Version. A Psalm of David. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord my whole life long. Thank you.
Thank you, Morgan. Sorry if my voice is a little, I've been talking and singing a lot. So, hi everybody, my name is De'Jenae Phillips and I am co-president of Black Student Association. Today I have the pleasure of introducing the Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King Luncheon keynote speaker, Tracie Morris. So Tracie Morris, long bio, well-accomplished woman. I'm very excited. No, they need to hear it. So Tracie Morris is Chief People Officer for Corewell Health, formerly Beaumont Health and Spectrum Health. She is integral in developing inspirational, innovative people strategies that propel the organization forward to thrive in a vibrant and inclusive culture. She champions programs that are related to learning, development, recruitment, retention, culture, and well-being. She also serves as a member of the Corewell Health leadership team. Tracie is passionate about people and transformation. In her 30-year career, she has led cultural transformation and execution of inclusion and talent strategies. She is experienced in the design of a new organizational structure as the foundation of growth and impact. Tracie previously served as Senior Vice President and U.S. Chief Human Resources Officer and Chief Inclusion Officer for BMO Financial Group, leading a human resources team that is dedicated to making BMO Financial a great place to work with a thriving and diverse culture. She led a culture overhaul that was called Ambition 2025, and it reconstructed compensation and benefit plans to reduce turnover, and it also established an inclusion strategy called Zero Barriers to Inclusion 2025. In her prior leadership, senior leadership roles for the Exelon Corporation, she focused on talent strategies, culture transformation, and again, more diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is very important. Tracie earned her Bachelor of Science in Organizational Communications from North Central, and then her Master's in Science in Management of Organizational Behavior from Benedictine University. She received a certification in Labor Relations Management from the University of Michigan, a Human Resources Management certification from Aurora University, and an Organization Design and Effectiveness certification from the Center for Effective Organizations. Tracie has served on the executive board of Junior Achievement and the board of leadership Greater Chicago. She is a member of the Chicago Network, an organization of senior women leaders in the Chicago area. In 2020, she was also named a notable leader in human resources by Crain's Chicago Business. Please put your hands together for the well-accomplished Tracie Morris.
Wow, thank you. You did a great job. I just wanted to say thank you for everyone who put this together. So I want to give you a round of applause. I appreciate you giving me a round of applause, but putting something like this together is very important. When DE&I is on the agenda, when DE&I is something that matters, you see people come out. So thank you to the DE&I team and everyone who put this together, because when it's not, it's on the menu, and you know the menu changes. We can't have the menu changing, so let's continue with this, which is so very important. So we're here. So I'm Tracie Morris. I am a proud alum of North Central College. I'm very excited to be here to talk about Martin Luther King's legacy and how that impacted me and why I stand here today. And me standing here today was no small feat, which I'll talk about as I move forward. My journey, like many of you, was not a straight line. It had many curves and many issues. But here I stand today with my beautiful daughter, Amber, here to see her mom speak. So another North Central person, so very proud. Okay. In September 1974, 6.5 years after Martin Luther King was assassinated, I started a private school in the city of Chicago. It was a Catholic school. I remember vividly how excited I was to attend school. I had pretty curly hair and a new dress, and I had this tin metal lunchbox, which of course I can tell you how old I am, but it was like this tin metal, and I was so excited, and I was walking to school, and I couldn't wait to meet my teacher and all of my new friends, and I just couldn't even sleep. I was so excited. But my dad walked with me. My dad is someone in the family who we love because he's the funniest guy, he brings the energy. But my dad walked me to school that day, and he was very quiet. He was silent, and he even seemed troubled. And as we walked together, I just kept being my normal kid-like self, and I was singing and playing and running ahead of him and having a great time. When we arrived at school, my dad stopped in front of me, and he kneeled down to his knees so that we could be eye level. He wanted to make sure that I heard the message that he was going to give me on this day. My dad looked into my eyes and he said this: "Don't allow anybody to make you feel like you're nobody. Always know that you count, and always feel that you have worth, and what your life means has ultimate significance." And then he told me that Dr. Martin Luther King gave those words to a group of students in elementary school. And he said, "You are somebody." At that time, I had no idea what my dad meant. Remember, my dad was a man who joked a lot, but was very serious about education and his kids. And at that time, certainly, I didn't know that he was quoting Dr. Martin Luther King, who had given that speech prior to his death, 6 months prior to his death, at a school called Barrett Elementary School in Philadelphia. I was cautious and a little afraid after he kneeled down. My dad is about 6 feet tall. I was a tiny 5-year-old child. But I knew from that day on that this was serious, and it was no longer something I could joke about. When he walked me to the front door, I was greeted by a priest in a white collar and a nun in all black. He let go of my hand, and the priest, Dr. Duras, he's wonderful, Father Duras, he led me inside, but I quickly realized that no one at that school looked like me. I realized that I was different. And somehow I knew that it was my job to do well in this school and to be, as Dr. King said, somebody. This experience shaped my life. The short quote my father had recited is known as Dr. King's blueprint speech. That blueprint speech became everything to me because it led me on my path for racial equality, health equity, and to help other people succeed. My father could quote Dr. King as fluently as he could quote the Bible. He knew firsthand what it was like to feel less than anybody. His family moved from Mississippi north, like many people did during the Great Migration. And during that time, he lived about 10 miles away from where Emmett Till was assassinated, was lynched. So my grandmother and my grandfather knew that it was very important to move out of the town. They did not know what would come next. So they went north, and on their way north, they went to see some family in Atlanta. And during that visit, my dad got to visit Ebenezer Baptist Church, where he saw Dr. Martin Luther King preach. He was so excited that left an impression on him. And in my house, we had a large picture in the text from the I Have a Dream speech. Every time we had dinner, we could see Dr. Martin Luther King's picture and that word, his words in our home. I never forgot that to this day. I was born and raised on the south side of Chicago. My parents worked long hours. My mom was a licensed practice nurse. My dad worked for the federal government as a postal service employee. I can still remember my dad coming home and having icicles on his hair and on his beard because he was so cold, because of the brutal winters in Chicago and the frigid temperatures. I remember him taking our garbage bags and wrapping his feet in those garbage bags and then putting on his boots just to keep his feet warm. I remember that like it was yesterday. At a very young age, I knew my parents had to work hard for my brothers and myself to attend school. It was because of their high value on education. Their blueprint was for us to go to school and succeed and do better and be somebody. We lived a very modest life, and we didn't own a home until I graduated from 8th grade. Education was so important, it came outside of housing. Housing was not as important as our education. My upbringing was very faith-based. I attended Catholic schools. My parents attended a Baptist church. So I alternated between Catholic schools, which was required, going to church, and then attending a Baptist church as well. My after-school activities, Bible studies, choir rehearsals, youth groups. I socialized with students who looked like me and students who didn't. So in his I Have a Dream speech, his dream of black girls and black boys playing with white girls and white boys, I was living that dream because I did so as a person in an underserved area. As I got older, I realized many children in my black community did not have the same opportunities. The neighborhood schools couldn't afford money for the books. They had tattered books. But I remember and witnessed firsthand the kindness and contribution of giving to underserved. My private school donated all of our books at the end of the school year to the public schools and to schools in our neighborhoods. And when the nuns learned that I wanted to take gymnastic classes that my parents couldn't simply afford, they got together and collected funds for me and many other black kids in my neighborhood to take gymnastic classes, which was so exciting to me to have their generosity. Poverty and crime were a reality in my neighborhood, but education was my escape. The school was my refuge, and when my parents worked late or my mom was overwhelmed, we had the great opportunity to stay in the rectory or stay in the convent where the nuns were. It was so important that they showed us and wrapped their arms around us. The discrepancy between private schools and public school was very important and very evident to me. When I graduated from elementary school, I attended 2 years of a public high school. I was so far ahead of the kids that they told me that I didn't have to come to school for those 2 years. They would just send me some work home for me to do. And remember, I told you my dad didn't play, so I had to do the homework anyway. And then I moved to Jones Metropolitan High School in Chicago, which is now known as Jones College Prep, a magnet school. The teachers were very surprised how far advanced I was. I graduated valedictorian of my class a year early. I went on to attend North Central College, which felt like home to me, in a great suburb with people who really cared about me from all different races. It was something that I really wanted to connect to, and it made me feel as if I was just going from one home to the next. I earned my master's degree, the first one in my family to have a degree. I have 2 years of my PhD studies. My education paved the way for a meaningful career and for my family's economic stability. Clearly, my father had instilled the value of education. He opened doors for me that had not been opened for him. The great challenge facing me was to be ready to open doors for others. And I didn't squander that opportunity. I can tell you when I entered corporate America, I made sure that I made opportunities for people who looked like me and people who didn't. And so this is not a journey that's a solo journey. I'm here to tell you that as I moved up, I brought people with me because the legacy continues. And I felt like growing up, like, what glass ceiling? I'm gonna knock the glass ceiling down and kick the door open so everyone can have an opportunity. I was fortunate with my education, but unfortunately, that was not the same for many in my neighborhood. The doors for education, the doors for economic freedom were not open to everyone. Everyone did not have the support that I had. Hardworking parents, generous and caring nuns, a father that looked up to Martin Luther King as if that was his own father. As I grew up, I saw a lot of changes in my neighborhood, the economic challenges and the violence that brought an end to many great things. The only Black-owned store in our area closed, and the family became homeless. They were not able to pay their bills. They were not able to send their kids to private schools. Like Dr. King said, we may have all come from different areas in Africa, so on different ships over to America, but we're in the same boat now. America has a way of reminding you who you are. When segregation and poverty have become a way of life for many without the means, it was important to rise above it, I felt. I did not want the glass hopper effect, where I was locked in a glass and couldn't jump out. So I always thought about how can I help others jump out as well. As I said, my parents put off home ownership in order to send me and my brothers to private schools. When I graduated from 8th grade, my parents were finally able to afford a home. We were thrilled. It was like Christmas. We were so happy because I didn't have to share this room with my brother anymore. If you ever shared a room with a brother, oh my God, he was not the cleanest person. So that's a whole different speech next year. But that dream came with working 2 jobs and many sacrifices that limited my father's time with his children. My dad loved living and loved doing many things, but he loved this about Dr. Martin Luther King, the civil rights leader, the minister, the husband, and just as important, the father to his beautiful children. So my dad talked about the man Martin Luther King was and the father that he was and the legacy that Dr. Martin Luther King left for his children. Home ownership is still a dream that many Black people are not able to achieve. Systemic racism, economic and educational inequality are some of the reasons that still exist today. We, as community leaders, we as educators and students, and as human beings, have a responsibility, a serious responsibility to bring about change. Everyone in this room, regardless of who you are and where you sit in life, you have an obligation to bring about change. I remember being here at North Central, and the kids from my area, my underserved area, said, yeah, I'm going to North Central. And so I brought them out here to see what it's like. So we always have a responsibility to hold someone's hand and bring them to see something different that they're not accustomed to seeing. That's how you reach back and you help other people. I was not shy about sharing this experience with them because I knew what that would mean for me. Black home ownership, a sign of the racial wealth gap, stands at 41% for African Americans, 73% for white homeowners. Over the last 18 months, while the wealthiest men in America added $360 billion to their collective wealth, the poor have become poor, with nearly 8 million Americans falling into poverty over the last few years. If Dr. King were here today witnessing health equity and the crisis of the economic gutting of so many Americans, I believe he would not miss words and call out the hypocrisy. According to the U.S. Bureau of Census Bureau, Black and people of color are the hardest hit in the pandemic. Deaths, housing, loss of jobs. Let's not become desensitized to the problems in America. Firsthand, I would say, the number one job on LinkedIn, if you don't know this, a little healthy fact, the number one job on LinkedIn right now is the Chief Diversity Officer. The Chief Diversity Officer. Everyone's trying to find a solution to something that hasn't been able to be explained or achieved. So remember that. That's how people look at it. Don't ever, ever turn back on the journey that we have, because doors are starting to open. I would say, while my family and I were excited to own a home, we were subjected to housing and mortgage policies that kept Black residents confined to Chicago's poor neighborhoods. These policies not only limited their ability to buy a home, but also their ability to build wealth, which is so different. The scars of segregation, redlining policies, and other discriminatory rules are still very visible today. The home that we purchased that I was so excited about for $60,000 in an underserved area on the south side of Chicago has not increased in value much. But the same home on the north side of Chicago in an affluent area, on the same street, same address, has increased in value to $1.6 million today, compared to $250 when it was purchased. Where's the equity in that? After the 2020 murder of George Floyd, which ignited national protests, corporate America, I was a part of the corporate America, acknowledged that it could no longer stay silent and promised to take an active role in confronting systemic racism from Silicon Valley to Wall Street. Many companies supported Black Americans and the causes that supported them by increasing Black entrepreneurship by 30%. Although America experienced unprecedented corporate commitment towards racial injustice, the reality is it still limits their power to successfully eliminate systemic problems and injustice that we currently have. Pledges yet have translated into progress, like I said, 30% in entrepreneurship, but we still have more to do. Unfortunately, some corporations feel constrained by things they feel they need to do to manage their brands in a world where Black liberation does not have consensus. Nevertheless, as I think about the future and the follow-through, I remain hopeful for the future, that corporations will continue to address the issues that face us. The Washington Post said of the 44 of the 50th valuable companies, $7 billion have already been pledged out of the $49 billion promised. That analysis shows that public companies are devoting their most powerful resources to help with this issue, which I'm very, very excited about. I'm going to tell you, when I was at BMO Financial Group, and we're in the middle of the pandemic and then the George Floyd crisis, the first thing I said was, we're going to change this narrative. We're going to bring more students in of color, which we're already doing great, but we weren't doing enough. So we did that. We went from 300 to 600. Let's double our efforts. Why can't we meet our diversity goals? We met our diversity goals. You know why we met our diversity goals? Because we dealt with unconscious bias. We dealt with the issues that impact people in underserved areas. You can't bring someone from an underserved areas in a corporate America and pat them on the back and say, go and do well. No, because they're not used to that environment. They're not used to what that means for them. When I stepped into corporate America, I had mentors of all colors. I had people who embraced me. That's the same experience that we should give to people entering corporate America. Someone to truly lift them up and let them know that they're supported. So that's something that I leave for all of you, because there's a lot of faces in this room. and we should do more of that. I know from experience, as I have described, the benefit of education. Education has done a lot for me, as you heard from the bio that was eloquently read. Of that career, it's given me opportunities to be somebody. And while I'm glad to see progress, there is so much more to be done. As a human resources officer and a member of many boards, nonprofit and for-profit, I'm in a position to make things work and open up doors of opportunity to underserved populations. I have also had the benefit of inclusive hiring practices and mentors and coaches, but I shouldn't be in the minority here. Diversity hiring and mentorship for youth, Black youth, people of color should be the norm. As I've said, I have hope. I have some bright spots, additional investments that have come through to many people in 2022. $28 billion in housing and business loans from some of the top banks, $500 million in investments from financial institutions for Black and Latinos, $50 million to historically Black colleges and universities to help students and people of color. These are opportunities that we need to take advantage of because they're out there. There are other corporations and other initiatives that make me hopeful. Many companies are diversifying their workforce to the highest paid C-suite positions. That's amazing. We're seeing a world where there are more CEOs now who are Black than we've ever seen at any point, and we need to keep lifting people up. I, in my role, have been mainly the lone voice in the room as a Black female, but I never let that stop me from giving my opinion. And you see I keep moving up, so obviously I haven't gotten fired yet. But I do. It's important for me to lend my voice to people who need it, to underserved people, so we can have a better system. We're better together. Being included in the table, in the tables that where the conversations are had are so important. So when I sit there, I think about all of you, of how can women and people of color and men, how can we work together to make the system better for everybody? In his April 26, 1967 speech, a speech to students at Glendale High School in Cleveland, Dr. King said, "Our power lies in our ability to unite around concrete programs. The answers to massive problems is not in capitalism, doing better or more. It's not going to be from the philanthropy. It's not going to come from promises. It's not going to come from programmatic policy changes." Dr. King said philanthropy is commendable, but it must not cause the philanthropist to overlook the circumstances of economic injustice, which make philanthropy necessary. Justice will only be served when the root causes of education, economic inequities are fully addressed. Today, the philanthropist might more fully understand, as Dr. King said, the supply of charity giving cannot possibly keep pace with the demand for it. So you can give and give, but why are you giving and why do we have the demand? Because there is a need that's not being met. So we must bend economic, social, and political systems, the system that made us towards the latter, fighting for justice. In King's blueprint speech for morality and equality, which still reverberates very loudly in my ears, it must also echo in your ears, so you can clearly know your responsibility as leaders in this room. And I will leave you with this. Dr. King's most important and impressive question is this: what are you going to do for others? What is your role in making others better? How can you use the time that you have on this journey that we have called life to impact the lives of others? The question for you is, what can you do to make others better? Thank you.
Thank you, Tracie, so much for that wonderful message. It's so inspiring, especially as a Black woman, seeing someone who looks like me in the position that you're in inspiring so many people, and from the south side of Chicago. You gotta represent. With that, on behalf of North Central College, we want to thank you with this gift for taking the time to inspire each and every one of us to create some sort of change that we want to see in the world. So thank you. You're probably tired of seeing me standing up here, but you're going to see me stand up here again, leading Voices of Praise. We're going to sing one more selection for you all, and this one is an upbeat one. It's called Everybody Clap Your Hands. So you know what I need you to do? Clap your hands, okay? I want you to get up, stand on your feet. I want you to dance around, and I want you to clap your hands with me, all right? Come on, let's get it.
We worship you, oh Lord. We magnify thank you, VOP. Thank you, Angel. I want to give a special out to Angel and, of course, Mike Helmays for helping me learn from East Tennessee how to clap on 2 and 4, not 1 and 3. It took a lot of work, I know, so thank you. I'm Eric Doolittle, the chaplain here at North Central College. We do want to wrap up our time here with a reminder. And I think the reminder is that the place that our beliefs play in all of this, who we are and how we identify ourselves. That the quote from MLK was talking about how love and justice are inseparable. I remember when Cornel West spoke here, he quoted, paraphrased King by saying, "Justice is love in public." I was very honored to have Carlos Rodriguez, who's part of the Happy Givers. He's put a t-shirt together and he took it one step further and he says, "Justice is love out loud." And VOP sang it for us and reminded us that love, if we love somebody, we want them not just to survive, but to thrive. That's what we're here about. We were reminded during our opening prayer that when those folks, our brothers and sisters in the Muslim faith, when they greet each other, they say, "Salam alaikum," peace be with you. The same is true with our Jewish brothers and sisters. Shalom. And for them, shalom must include tikkun malum, making the world better. And Jesus, of course, reminded us that the most important things for us is to love the Lord our God with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love our neighbor as ourself. These are our roots. This is why we do this. It grounds us. No matter what your faith or your belief may be, I hope you have a sense that making life better, not just for yourself, but for each person here and each person in the world, is essential to who we are and why we do what we do. That our roots are deep and strong, but we still must bear fruit as we continue to extend our work into the world. This celebration celebrates that roots. Pastors, advocates, organizers, civic leaders who come together and we are reminded of who we are as a college and as a community. We look around and we see the current leaders who are here, building on that deep roots, who come back from when King was here in the 60s and even farther. And we see the future and our students who spoke, who sang, and for even the children who are here with their parents to be reminded of who they are and who they are to be. But we can't just have a picture of MLK on our wall as a reminder, or stained glass Jesus in our church, or words of the prophets, whether they be Micah or Muhammad, carved into our doorplace or our place of worship. Those things are not just icons. They are reminders of who not we were, but who we are to be and who are we going to be and become. I love that you had that daily reminder and that it took root. That it took root in a powerful way. And I hope that's what this kind of event can be for everybody here. A reminder of who we have come from and who we are to be and how we are to act in the world for everyone for justice. We are to be a college that embodies moral courage, to make sure that everyone is welcome, valued, and seen as necessary in this place. That we continue to name those on our campus who try to make others feel less than anybody else. Whether that be the trans folks who still face hatred on our campus, our minority students who still do not feel included, and yes, I know, Josiah, you're already saying that's the wrong term. Thank you very much. Josiah will be here in a moment. Those folks who have felt othered, whoever they are, because of their identity, the color of their skin, their race, their beliefs, we can do better. We can do better. It's not enough. It's even more. We need to hold accountable those folks who are here, and I thank you that you're here, those folks who are part of our community who are working on education and making sure it is equitable in our society and in our city. We thank you for those businesses who do take advantage and look at their role as leaders in our city and our nation, not to make profit, but to invest in people. Because which is more precious? That we have our civic leaders who are here that continue to work on breaking down barriers, like the Affordable Housing Initiative that goes up to vote tomorrow at the City Council. There's a continuation of the work that King did because he knew that just because it was open didn't mean it was fair. We have an obligation to make change. I love that. We have an obligation to make change. Whether it was because we believe it because of who we are, because Jesus said it, Micah said it, Muhammad said it, our parents said it, our prophets modern day said it. We have an obligation to make change. So today, as we continue, as we finish up our time here, I always have a saying that I like from when I was a pastor. I always said, the best speech, the best sermon starts when you all get to the parking lot. If you are talking about what you heard today, when you leave this place, then our work gathering together has not been in vain. Take time to make those connections and figure out who you are today, to figure out what is next for you. Not just doing good, but doing enough and then going the next step too. That justice is part of how we show our love, and that our love is real. Will you pray with me? Gracious and loving God, known by many names, we thank you for the witness that we have received from the actions of those mighty leaders and those doing the everyday work day to day. May we continue to find ways to show love out loud, that all may really mean all. Justice for all, love for all, a place for all. May we all be your children at your work in the world. We thank you. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen. Thank you for a little bit of time and for letting a preacher preach a little bit. I want to invite Karl back up.
So before we end, I would like to thank again Tracie for that wonderful speech. I would like to thank Reverend Eric for that wonderful reflection and prayer. I would like to thank VOP. I would like to thank Belgio and their staff. Let's give a applaud to the staff for feeding us. Make sure we're all nice and nourished for today. And again, I would like to thank the Black History Committee and the MLK Committee. Again, give them a round of applause because, I mean, everything you saw, everything looks great today. It's all due to them. I do have some events that I would like to tell y'all about before we leave today. So on tomorrow, we'll have our 12-5. It'll be happening at 12:05 in Colton Chapel. It is going to be, the keynote speaker for that will be Dr. Greg Wolf. And there will be another performance by VOP there as well. On Wednesday, we'll be doing a screening at 6 p.m. of Let the Little Light Shine. Let the Little Shine follows a remarkable movement, a group of people, some white, some black, upper middle class, and lower class, advocating for black children's future. It weaves from the classroom to district boardrooms and city hall. It devolves into the politics of gentrification, the sanitized language of displacement, and who is lost in the name of growth. So that will be shown at the Harold's and Eva White Activity Center on the second floor. It will be followed up by a discussion as well with two of the participants there. On Thursday, we'll have we'll be honoring civil rights leaders in the Multicultural Student Center. So if you go up to the Multicultural Student Center, the hallway will be filled of civil rights leaders, past and present. And then we'll be showing some film and having some refreshments there from 11:30 to about 2 p.m. So if you want to come by and just stop by just to see that, that'll be happening there. And then on Thursday night, We'll be having Professor Harry Plins and Susan Cho from North Central's Department of Music. They'll be hosting love songs of Black poets and composers in the Wentz Concert Hall at 7 p.m. This is a program of songs that celebrates love, relationships as expressed through the words and music of Black poets and composers. Each of the songs is a set of work of Black poets who inspired a Black classical composer to set those words to music. And then on February 1st, Wednesday, February 1st, we'll be having the kickoff to Black History Month with author and activist Mickey Kendall. Mickey Kendall is a writer of the New York Times bestseller, Hood Feminism, and she's appeared on BBC, NPR, The Daily Show, PBS, Good Morning America, and I can continue the list on and on and on. And then to see the full performance of VOP, you'll have to come on Saturday, February 11th, and where they will be having their gospel extravaganza at 3 p.m. And there are some posters out there if you want to take a picture and to get more information about that. And now I'll have Reverend, there you go, Josiah Montgomery, Assistant Director of Faith in Action, with the benediction.
I'll leave you today with the words from Luke's gospel that I have found to be foundational to King during his ministry and the legacy that he left. In Luke chapter 4 are recorded these words: "Then Jesus, in the power of the Holy Spirit, returned to Galilee. After a report about him spread throughout the surrounding region, he began to teach in their synagogues and was praised by everyone. When he came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up, he went up to the synagogue on the Sabbath day, as was his custom. He stood up to read, and the scroll of the prophet Isaiah was given to him. He unrolled the scroll and found the place where it is written, 'The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim release to the captives and recovery of sight to the blind, to set free those who are oppressed, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor.' And he rolled up the scroll, gave it back to the attendant, and sat down. The eyes of all in the synagogue were fixed on him. Then he began to say to them, 'Today this scripture has been fulfilled in your hearing.' So, dear friends, continue to follow peace and justice with all people, regardless of who they are. Do justice and love mercy, and walk in the light. Have a great day.